Republicans' favorite hobby is to make conspiracy theories out of everything.
So by now you've heard that AOC and a dozen other members of Congress were arrested outside the Supreme Court for protesting for abortion rights. But this video is not about that. You've also probably heard a lot of people on the right making fun of her for what they think was pretending to be handcuffed by putting her arms behind her back. But this video is not about that either. This video is about truth, and the fact that we're living now in a post-truth era, and how impossibly dangerous that is. And I will prove that to you by sharing a DM conversation I had with somebody on the right just last night. But first, for the basis of this conversation, a couple of facts need to be established. One, you do not have to be handcuffed to be arrested. AOC obviously knew that because she's been arrested before and it happened again now. Two, when I was arrested, when I was running for president and I was protesting corruption on the US Capitol steps, they had plastic ties they decided not to use, and I was not cuffed either, but I was arrested. This is me getting arrested in Washington, D.C. while protesting corruption in our government. But how did I get here? Doesn't mean it didn't happen just because you weren't in cuffs. Sorry, this isn't the movies. And another important fact here, because it's observable, is somebody who is trying to pretend to be handcuffed with their arms behind their back would not then intentionally fist pump into the air, showing that they are not handcuffed. But that didn't stop people from believing that she was faking being handcuffed, did it? Of course not. But somehow even crazier than that, two people hit me up in my DMs saying that I fell for clickbait and she was not actually arrested, and one straight up called me a liar. Let me read you that one first, the liar one, which somehow ended up better than the second one I'll read you. Let me begin. And this, by the way, will, I think, prove exactly how difficult it is to actually argue with somebody on the right, because they refuse to ever admit when they are wrong. I shared an NPR post about the arrest on my Instagram story and added, "Let me get this straight. Members of Congress were arrested for peacefully protesting for human rights, immediately arrested without question, but other members of Congress and a former president are walking around scot-free for assisting in an attempt to erase our democracy and violently attack our Capitol. We need to fix a lot of garbage in this country." Well, this person hit me up, slid up into the DMs in a way that is fun for nobody, and said, "Don't lie! Stupid AOC wasn't arrested." More political theater as usual from her stupid drama queen self. So I replied, yeah, she was, with a link to a CNN article showing that, yeah, she was. And I added, they don't need to put cuffs on you immediately when you're arrested for a peaceful protest. When I wasn't cuffed either. This person actually then admitted a fact and replied, okay, it says they were arrested after several warnings for illegally blocking traffic, not peacefully protesting. I guess the cops could have just let drivers run over and abort them, which was an unnecessary slam, but at least they admitted a mistake, which I thanked them for. I said, thank you very much for admitting the truth. Most people wouldn't be able to correct themselves like that. Thank you. This rare person who might still be reachable replied again, sorry for the don't lie comment. An apology, can you believe that? I didn't know they were actually arrested originally. I thought you thought she was arrested because AOC was acting as if she were handcuffed when she wasn't. I just wish all the political theater and the left pushing such extreme demands would stop. So I couldn't leave well enough alone, and because I don't value my sleep, I replied, what extreme demands? A woman's right to decide what happens with her own body? Extreme demands seem to me to be the right all voting against reporting neo-Nazis in our police and military, carving districts so black people's votes don't count, passing hundreds of voter restriction laws so that those in power get to keep it without being part of a real democracy, a president and a whole party behind him denying a fair election, still trying to tear down our democracy, a party saying we can't teach that slavery is bad, and not believing in science on a planet that is in trouble, and not believing in the science of vaccines. What are any significant extreme demands from the left? Well, she replied, and here's the problem with not having truth in our country anymore, with every single thing practically not being an actual platform of the Democratic Party, like the things I mentioned being actual platforms of the Republican Party. Quote, I myself don't believe abortion should be outright banned anywhere at all, as I believe it's a woman's choice through the first 3 months. But there should be a medical reason after that. I don't promote killing babies or being irresponsible with reproductive options. Nobody promotes killing babies, but they're not babies. I digress. But I do believe there are situations that require late abortion, such as saving the woman's life, or if the baby has died, or the discovery of a serious disease, defect, or something. But women wanting to abort a fully developed baby or a baby as they are giving birth is extreme. Yeah, no one's advocating for that. I grew up in the DC metro area and I'm totally against racism. Good for you. I absolutely don't disagree that it exists, more so in certain areas than others. But removing history And destroying property is not the way to teach people about the effect slavery and racism had and has on people. Removing history, I'll get to it in a second. I don't want to argue, and I think you're a funny comedian who I will continue to watch. I don't like divisive politics and think there is a middle ground, says somebody who has unfortunately fallen victim to divisive politics. So I replied with this. I agree there's a middle ground, and I agree with everything you said here pretty much. The only problem is, the Republicans in power make the things I mentioned their official platform. It's literally the position of our Republican senators and congresspeople. The things you mentioned are not the positions of the Democrats, not at all. Do you see my point of how different that is? Most Democrats, and most of them in power, too, do not agree with abortion once it can survive outside of the womb. So that's 24 to 28 weeks. You say 12 or so weeks. So that is very close. No Democrats advocate for abortion as they are giving birth. That is a talking point from the right. As to removing history, that's what Republicans are doing by saying we can't teach slavery. Can't teach that slavery is bad or that we still struggle with racism. That's removing facts and history. If you're talking about Confederate statues, statues are not documents of history. They are monuments, honoring heroes. As we evolve past racism, it's okay to take down a statue that honors racists. We can still learn the history about them. We just don't need a statue making black people feel small and less than. Why would we? As to destroying property, I totally agree with you. Those who do, even when protesting, should be punished. No Democrat in power says, hey, if you're upset, go burn down a building, no worries. But the Republicans in power and in the media pretend that we do. So do you agree with me perhaps now that the things you mentioned are bad, yes, but not the platform of the Democrats? And the things I mentioned are bad, but are the platform of the Republicans? And this person did not reply because I sent it now at 5 in the morning, and humans are asleep. So stay tuned on that one. For Rebel HQ, I'm Ben Gleib. Follow me on all social media at Ben Gleib, because as you can see, I reply to my DMs.